Hello and welcome everyone to the latest rendition of our weekly server fantasy series, the CUFL Recap. And on this week's rendition, we have 4 matchups, all ending up with a decisive winner for each one. This shows us that the top teams of the league are continuing to set themselves apart from the rest of the competition. And to see which teams are continuing to make statements to the rest of the league, let's start our Week 12 recap. For our first matchup, we had the Carolina Cornballs getting a solid win against a Finio team dead and in the grave. The 40-point victory was just what the team needed to separate themselves from the bottom seed. Needless to say, it's been an unlucky and rough go for the Carolina Cornballs this season, but a win this week lets them live among the life they lost and get a taste of the good life in the win column. However, as for Finio, the end of the season stretch looks to be tough sledding, especially if the owner isn't able to properly manage their team. And this is honestly a shocking turn of events, because I don't think anyone could have seen this coming.
Team Finio looks to regain dominant form as a contender and make a run for the title.
So long as he doesn't die on us anyway.
Nah, dude, who am I kidding? We all saw this coming. And considering the highly controversial trade that Finio engaged in after this week, sending their number 1 player off for no good reason, it looks like this season could turn into a nightmare for Finio. And for our next matchup... It happened again! I think I'm just convinced that this league is just an endless cycle of the same outcome happening over and over again, week in and week out. Because, I mean, it's just the same story with these two teams over and over again throughout the year. I gotta know who's writing the script for this stuff, because there's no way that the Barbarians just inexplicably underperform expectations 2 weeks in a row.
I just can't do it. I can't take this shit no more, man.
And of course, it just so happens that the opponent who gets to take advantage of this is Jerk. I mean, think of it this way. The number 1 team, the top seeded team in the league, put up a sub 100 performance and got away with it. And I know my job as the reporter is to remain unbiased, but how can you look at Jersh and tell me that's the best team in the league? But anything can happen in the postseason, so we'll have to see if Jersh can continue their success when the lights are turned up to their brightest. As for the Bad Omen Barbarians, it's continuing to look like this team just can't hang with the rest of the competition, and their playoff chances have left for good. But a controversial trade, landing them top talent Bijan Robinson for a bag of Lay's potato chips, could potentially keep them out of the punishment. But nothing is for sure in this league, so the Barbarians will have to continue to fight to avoid certain doom. Our next matchup was an exciting battle between my Columbus Clankers and Rish. With both teams evenly matched at 6 and 6, the rights to who will be in the driver's seat for the number 4 seed was on the line in this matchup. To begin the highly important matchup, the Columbus Clankers star player, Jackson Smith-Njigba, put up his best performance of the year so far, with 8 catches, 167 yards, and 2 touchdowns, totaling to 37 total fantasy points. However, Sunday Night Football seemed like it had the potential to flip the matchup entirely on its head. The Los Angeles Rams were going absolutely ballistic on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday Night Football. I don't know if any of you were watching the game, but 37-year-old Matthew Stafford was absolutely slinging it, looking like the MVP. And with Rish's premier scoring duo being the quarterback Matthew Stafford and top wide receiver Puka Nacua, this looked to be a nightmare in the making for my Clankers. Stafford and Nacua managed to rack up a combined 40 points in the first half, leading them to a 31-7 lead over Tampa Bay at halftime. But oddly enough, this was a case where the passing offense was so good, it ended up hurting their fantasy production. With the game being almost certainly over at halftime, the Rams didn't need to do much of anything offensively, leaving them to produce close to nothing fantasy-wise. Because of this, my Columbus Clankers were able to maintain the lead and close out the matchup, putting them in sole possession of the 4th seed and in control of their own destiny for the playoffs. So you know what that means.
Ain't this what they
Oh,
do?
no, you don't.
Whoa, whoa, As for Rish, they'll be on the outside looking into the playoffs for now, as they'll not only have to win their remaining games, but also hope for a bit of hope to get into the playoffs. And for our absolute cinema game of the week, we had a matchup of two brothers and two top teams battling it out for playoff positioning. The Bayside Birdbrains and the Red 40 Ragers are two of the premier teams of the CUFL at the number 2 and number 3 seed. So on top of the familial bragging rights on the line, the battle for the number 2 seed was also on the line. So needless to say, the stakes were absurdly high for this matchup. So let's go ahead and get a live reenactment of what happened in this matchup.
Oh my god, he's stealing all the burgers! Why, you little... I touch you! Go!
I will not judge. It's all just an act. Said you for I don't want love.
He's already dead.
Dragon Ball Z ass movies about to use, bro. Light that burns the sky. Rabambi, please survive, please. If this Rabambi actually survives this shit, gold status, gold status. What is going on right now, man? Rabambi, please don't kill it, bro. Oh my god! Is that a spirit bomb? It might be good though. Rabambi!
And pardon me for asking, but Jackson, is everything okay at home, buddy? There had to be something personal about this one, because he beat the ever-living daylights out of his brother. 112 to 193 was the final for this one. And the latter score for the Ragers is the most a team has scored ever in the history of the CUFL. And that was mainly in part to Jameer Gibbs making a little bit of history on his own, tying the highest single-player score in the history of the CUFL. So, if it wasn't obvious to this point, this was a generational beatdown by the Red 40 Ragers against a very good Bayside Birdbrains team, awarding them the number 2 spot in the league. As for the Birdbrains, it's a shocking 2 straight losses for them, as they dropped to 7-5 and the 3rd seed. However, they still remain strongly in playoff contention and hope to bounce back next week after a tragic loss to Little Brother. So congrats to the Carolina Cornballs, Church, and the Red 40 Ragers on getting a win this week. So let's take a look ahead at our Week 13 matchups. We have the Columbus Clankers taking on Finio, Jersh taking on Rish, the Bayside Birdbrains taking on the Carolina Cornballs, and the Red 40 Ragers taking on the Bad Omen Barbarians. With just 3 weeks left, we have now entered the final act of the regular season. As it stands currently, the two teams with a guaranteed playoff spot look to be Jersh at the number 1 seed and the Red 40 Ragers at the number 2 seed. The 3rd-ranked Bayside Birdbrains and the 4th-ranked Columbus Clankers look to be close to making it in. But these two teams aren't out of the clear yet, as they could be overtaken by a 5th-ranked Rish team on the outside looking in. Which teams will punch their ticket into the promised land? Find out next time on the next rendition of the CUFL Recap.